Hey guys, so we are going to be learning about 18th and 19th century art movements. I'm going to pull up the slideshow right now so we can get into it. But we're going to be learning about Romanticism, Realism, and Neoclassicism. Okay. All right. So Neoclassicism, Romanticism, and Realism. To give you some context in history, we're right around the time when Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning conductor in 1752. Then we've got Napoleon, who was crowned emperor in 1804. Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated in 1865, and Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone in 1876. I also wanted to introduce you guys to some women artists during this time. This left painting is a self-portrait that Mary Cassatt completed in 1878. The middle painting is a portrait of a model that Berthe Morisot completed in 1879. Then we've got a portrait of Rosa Bonheur that Anna Klump completed in 1898. Now, Neoclassicism is an art movement that is influenced by Greek, Roman, and Renaissance work. These sculptures are clear indications of that because Greek and Roman artwork was very influenced by proportion and realism. And we can see that here. These sculptures are very realistic and proportionate for true nature. This is a painting that also exemplifies those very same qualities that are typical of Greek and Roman art. Now, this artist is one that I want you guys to know. So Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres was French, and he was encouraged to pursue art by his father, who was also an artist. He attended a local school, but his education was interrupted by the French Revolution. He studied under three different artists, Jean-Pierre Vauban, Jean Briant, and Guillaume Joseph Roch. Okay, not French. Hopefully I pronounced those right, but you'll have to bear with me through this because we've got quite a few French names. But here is some artwork that was done by one of his teachers. So that's pretty cool. And this is something that he completed himself. He completed this portrait of Napoleon, which Napoleon actually encouraged this art movement because he wanted it to continue to show his strength and authority. And this portrait does that very well. It shows those his stature and his strength very well. And this artist's style was incredible because his brushwork never shows. He has a very soft and sensitive nature for the texture and the flesh of the paintings. If you look at the flesh of Napoleon's face, it is very smooth. There is no texture, and he is very delicate and neat with his work. Here's some more of his work. That is an excellent example of neoclassicism, that symmetry and proportion is very exact here. The next artist that we're going to cover is actually a Japanese printmaker, Katsushika Hokusai. He was considered one of the greatest Japanese printmakers. He studied woodblock engraving at an early age, and he used traditional Japanese printmaking styles. But then he implemented his own style and originality by expressing more emotion. He was the first Japanese printmaker to focus on landscapes, and we see one right here. It's a beautiful example of one of his pieces of artwork. Then we've got Elizabeth Vigée-Lebrun. She was one of the most successful women painters. She painted Marie Antoinette. She stayed to become the painter to the Queen and was elected to the Academy in 1783. This is an extraordinary honor because the Academy is a very prestigious art school that many artists attended if they wanted to have a career in art. She studied history, which is the most prestigious category at the Academy, and she painted over 800 paintings. It's insane. This is one of her paintings, Julia's Flora, the Roman goddess of flowers. Then we've got Romanticism. Now, Romanticism is probably my favorite out of the three movements that we're studying because it's more of an emotional and individualistic style. This is a painting by one of the artists that we'll be discussing later, Theodore Jericho. Now, before we get into this movement, though, we have to define two words, non-representational and non-objective. Non-representational means to not serve as a typical or characteristic example. Non-objective is not a natural or actual object, figure, or scene being represented, okay? Now, these are important words for you guys to know because this describes the kind of artwork that we're going to be looking at for Romanticism. And you guys need to know what we're talking about when we're talking about non-representational and non-objective. Now, Theodore Jericho, he was influenced by Michelangelo's muscular figures, and he was also interested in humanity's struggle with nature. We see that in one of his pieces of art right here, Pity of the Sorrows of a Poor Old Man. Now, this is a comparison of Michelangelo's work on the left with his work on the right. Again, you can see the similar nature of those muscular figures on either side. Next, we have Eugene Delacroix. He was a key Romanticism painter. He was also one of the first major painters to visit Islam. This is when his style changed to a more expressive and emotional style. Okay, and you can definitely see that here because you can see it in the brushstrokes themselves. This is actually an architect from the period, Alexander Gustave Eiffel. He created the Eiffel Tower. He is known as the engineer for all the bridges in Europe and also as the father of iron and steel construction in France. Now, the Eiffel Tower was actually not popular for a while because people didn't like it. They called it the Junkman's Notre Dame. The steel framework did not make advancements for construction, or the steel framework did make advancements for construction by allowing for faster construction and lighter weight buildings. So our next movement is realism. This movement began to take into effect while neoclassicism and romanticism were still around. Now, realism is based off of observation. The first artist we're going to talk about is Rosa Bonheur. She attended boarding school along with the other boys, despite it being incredibly controversial. She actually cut her hair and dressed like a boy to fit in. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, but she was the first woman artist to receive the cross of the French Legion of Honor. This is one of her paintings. It's incredible and beautiful. This is another one of her paintings, which is so incredibly realistic and based off of just her observation of animals. And it's got some beautiful tones and colors there. Gustave Courbet is another realism artist. He is definitely one of my favorites. He painted commoners, people that were never painted back then. And this was also very controversial and not widely accepted. He wasn't even accepted into exhibitions. He had to create his own exhibition to display his work. He defied his parents' wishes to study law, and instead he studied art. He was the ultimate depiction of a realist artist. This is one of his pieces of work, The Wheat Sifters. He also painted this funeral. Then we've got Honoré Daumier. He is mostly self-taught. He studied sculpture in Dutch and Flemish painting in the Louvre. He produced 4,000 lithographs, as well as 300 drawings and 200 paintings. He portrayed people as he saw them, which you can see here because these sculptures are rather amusing to myself. I think they are, at least. They're not typical paintings like you would see, but yeah, those are some sculptures that he completed himself. And this is a piece of art that he completed in 1862 called the Third Class Carriage, which again, this art movement is based off of observation. And this is observation. This is what he saw. Okay, you guys are not taking the exam. Should have taken that before class, but I hope this help make you guys a little bit more aware about some different artwork and some different artists, and just about neoclassicism, romanticism, and realism. I hope you were able to finish taking those notes while you were able to watch this video. If you didn't catch some stuff, go ahead and scroll back through the video and figure out what you can. If you have any questions, you can either email me or Mrs. Hawkins. But I will be back next time you see me in class.